Hi guys! Look who I'm here with. This is my girl Yocheved. A lot of you know her because I actually did a few lives with her in some challah parties, which was really amazing. And actually wanted her to come on live because she's got some incredible insights. I mean, she's very humble about it, but I was like, you're coming over, we're doing this. And I really think a lot of what you say, Yocheved, first of all, I know Yocheved since we just had babies, right? Our first baby.
At least 15 years
right? Ago. Our oldest is in the same class, was in the same one, Shari Tzion.
Born the same month.
The same month,
4
the
days
same
apart.
week. Right? And then our husbands were both working in the same place. We both ended up working in the same place at one point.
Lived in the same community.
Right? We both were majored in OT and then switched to PA, remember?
That's right.
That?
Yes, I actually forgot that you were doing the same thing.
Yeah. So we're basically we're on the same wavelength. And so now I actually asked Yocheved if she could come on live and share with us some insights and asked her to talk about this topic because I think this is something that a lot of people would appreciate hearing about. So, dear Yocheved, what's one challenge you had to overcome and the lessons you learned from it? Can you share with me one thing challenges that you've overcome?
So actually, I love this topic. It's very dear to my heart. And I have to say, in life, I've overcome many, many different challenges, as I'm sure a lot of you have overcome. And it's don't mind, I'm not really used to this whole Facebook Live scenario, so I'm kind of going to be glancing from my phone
to the screen. Guys,
give
her some love because she's
not familiar with this
amazing.
whole technique, but I'm very, very excited to be here because I enjoy Esther's lives, and I thought it was so amazing for her to invite me to do this together with her. And Esther, the question you posed is a very, very dear and important question for me. It's about achieving a goal and achieving your dream. So a lot of us have a potential. We have a dream. And we start dreaming from a very, very early onset in life. From when we're young, when we're 6, when we're 7, I always remember wanting to be a teacher. And I used to go in my room and I used to put a board and I had puppets sitting on my bed and I always pretended that I was a teacher. And then as we get older, our goals change, our thought processes change, our desires change. And sometimes you wonder, what is that obstacle that prevented us from becoming who we originally thought we would become? Why did we marry the other person and not the person we originally thought we would be attracted to? Why is it that we're having difficulties at our job? What is the stumbling block in why we're not able to achieve our potential? And I made a list from my huge challenge in life, and I'm going to share with you what I thought was the most challenging moment in my life. And that list is what I learned when I overcame that challenge. So the most challenging part of my life was not being able to graduate high school. My highest level was 11th grade. And the reason I only went through 11th grade is because, again, God has plans for us, and sometimes it's not what we expect. I got engaged when I was 16, and I ended up getting married when I was 17. And I remember that when I was in 11th grade and I had my engagement ring, same ring I'm wearing today, my teachers found out that I was engaged. They called me and said, I'm sorry, but you can't come back into class because it would be a negative impact on the other girls. And of course, I didn't plan that. I didn't plan for myself to be kicked out of school for getting engaged. And the first question was, what am I going to do now? Is it going to prevent me from achieving my goal? My goal is to have a career. My goal is to finish school. My goal once was to become a doctor and a lawyer. And how am I going to achieve all of that now without even a high school degree? And even though there are so many different challenges that we all have that are more important, but this challenge itself was the one that taught me the greatest lesson in life. And the lesson I learned, I'm going to share with you. The first thing, if you want to achieve something, and by the way, let me backtrack so you understand where I'm heading. So after I finished my GED, I was able to go into the physician assistant program, and I graduated with a degree in physician assistant. And that's where I actually had this relationship with Esther because she's a PA and I'm a PA. And how did I become from that high school dropout to becoming a physician assistant? That's really what my goal was, to finish and get a career. And again, this lecture is not meant to be about me. It's my lesson that I went through. And I think that everybody has their own potential. Maybe you want to buy a house. Maybe you want to move out of state and you're very afraid. Maybe you're looking to get married and you're almost getting engaged, but you're not sure. So these tips are going to help you in many different aspects of your life. So tip number 1, don't ever compare yourself to anybody. So if you want to become somebody, but you've heard stories of how other people didn't succeed, and they told you about how hard that interview process was. They told you about how hard the schooling was. They told you about you're not going to get accepted because I had a 4.0 GPA and you only have a 3.2 GPA, so don't even bother going into the program. The first thing is, don't look at other people's experiences and make that experience your own experience. What happens with somebody else is their pathway in life. What people go through is for them to go through. It's not for you to go through. Your lesson is your lesson. So rule number 1, don't compare yourself to anybody. Live your life for your own path.
Can I, first of all, I applaud that, because I think that is one of the most challenging things every person has as an individual. I tell you, myself, when I first got married, my husband and I lived in a 1-bedroom. We were, with my father-in-law, we were students, and it was really so hard for me not to look at other young couples who were going out on vacation, were going out to restaurants. It was very hard for me not to compare, and especially with Facebook, when you look at other people's pictures and their stories, and it's very hard not to create a story of your own about their perfect life or their pretty good life that if you had, you wouldn't be in this situation frustrated. I actually saw a quote. It said, comparison is an act of violence against oneself. Comparison is an act of violence against yourself. If you compare yourself to anybody else, remember this: you are not giving an equal comparison. They have not started where you started.
Absolutely.
and they didn't walk the same ramp that you're walking.
Exactly.
It's possible that you see their success, but they walked many years that ramp to reach that point, and you just see that last piece, so you're thinking, wow. But the truth is, you don't know their story, and they don't have the same. The only person you should compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. I love that statement. I heard that, and I agree with that, because if you had made progress from the person you were yesterday to the person you are today, that right there is growth. That's where
Absolutely.
you really find your path.
Absolutely. So
I
don't
applaud
compare
that.
yourself to others. Again, anything that you have to achieve, if you saw your neighbor, your sister, your friend, your cousin, and they were not successful, don't let that set you back and say, if they couldn't do it, I definitely can't do it. You don't know why they couldn't do something. You don't know, maybe that wasn't their pathway. Like, we both thought we were going to be occupational therapists, and we both weren't, because Hashem knows, God knows, that we have skills that we will do better
Right.
in the clinical world that we're doing right now.
It's true.
Rule number 2, overcoming your fears. Now, there's 2 types of fears. There is a fear which is negative. You're afraid. What if I don't succeed? What's going to happen? Am I going to be a failure? And sometimes being afraid of being a failure, that what are people going to think about me if I don't succeed? So the fear of failing is going to stop us from achieving our goal. But we can also have another type of fear, and that is a fear of success. What happens if I do succeed? What happens if I start looking for that house and I'm able to buy that house and I could close, and that could be a deal? That is a fear of, what if I achieve my goal? And the question is, why would somebody be afraid of success? You can be afraid of success because sometimes, let's say you're coming from a background where you were never in a house, you were always in an apartment, and now you buy a house and you're afraid of, how am I going to take care of that house once it's mine? Am I going to be able to afford a cleaning lady? The responsibilities. Am I going to be able to afford the mortgage? So sometimes the fear of success also stops us from achieving your potential. So don't be afraid to succeed. Fear is a very, very negative emotion. Number 3, patience. Anything that we want to achieve in life we need to know that there's time involved. Rome wasn't built overnight, which means we need to tell ourselves that anything that we want to achieve, we can't expect it to happen suddenly. So if it takes a little bit longer than usual, that's something that's expected. So that shouldn't be discouraging us from continuing to strive to achieve that potential. So patience is virtue. And I'm a very impatient person. I like to have everything done right away. So that was very, very difficult. But again, it taught me, going through my challenge and going through 6 years of my schooling, that things need time. And with time, you're going to succeed.
I think it matters what you do at that time too. I actually read it in this book, Grit. It's such a good book. Thank you, Sarah, who recommended it. But that book talks a lot about patience. If you try and achieve greatness within yourself, it takes time. It really does, whatever you want to achieve. But I think one thing I want to add, if you have kids, teaching your children how to get patience.
Very important.
One way I read it in that book is to give them extracurricular activities by having a teacher teach them some like a ballet or some kind of instructor to give them tools to reach something that takes time. It teaches them skills.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And number 4, motivation. Develop a motivation within yourself. Be motivated. Want that thing very badly. Whatever it is that you're looking to achieve, motivate yourself enough to want to achieve it. If you don't want it badly enough, you're going to allow the stumbling blocks to stop you in continuing your path.
So how do you build that?
So that brings me to the next one. The way you build your motivation is 1, 2, 3, 4, number 5. And I'm kind of cheating here because I made a list. Number 5 is confidence. You build your motivation by having self-confidence. If you believe in yourself, you're going to be motivated enough to stick through whatever it is.
So what builds confidence?
Building confidence, okay. We struggle, a lot of people, myself included, we struggle in believing in ourselves. And unfortunately, in order for us to believe in ourselves, we have to be told that we're good. And if people don't tell us that we're good, we start to think that we're not good. And then sometimes we start to drop out of whatever it is that we're doing. So the way we have to develop confidence is learning to have an inner voice. Okay? It's a task, it's a skill, it takes time to develop, but each one of us needs to learn to have their own inner voice. Instead of waiting for somebody to tell you how good you are, instead of waiting for somebody to tell you how much they believe in you, learn to tell that to yourself. For example, if you're walking down the block and it's a peaceful time and it's dark and no one is around you, in a whispering tone of voice, talk to yourself and say, I could do this. Well, why can't I do this? There are so many people in the world that have even worse situations than me, and they accomplished it. How am I worse than them? But if God believes in me, I have to believe in myself.
Right. This is true.
You have the tools that are necessary in order to accomplish any gift that you have in life. And sometimes you're going to hear people give you negative criticism. And that negative criticism sometimes makes you go away from that desire. Keep in mind that the negative criticism is the devil in your ear that does not want you to succeed. It's coming to you and it's going to whisper a lot of things in your ears just for you not to succeed. So don't fall into that trap.
I love what you said. I think it's very true. If God gave you a dream, it's there because he wants you to do something with it. I agree with that. I always wanted to share thoughts like this also. I used to watch Oprah, okay, when I was a little girl, and I would just watch her. You know, people watch, I don't know, Pokemon. I was watching Oprah because I was so fascinated by this. And look, I'm able to, like, in my own little world, have a piece of that, where I get to interview somebody who has value in my life and share that with other people. And that's something unique. And I want to add one thing. One thing I think builds confidence: action. I learned how to drive recently. I'm sorry, I have to add this.
That's actually true. That is your story.
Yocheved, she used to drive me home from work because we used to finish at the same time, and always same story. She's like, Esther, you're gonna have so much so much freedom when you just get out of your own shell. And I was like, one day. And one day turned into this month because I was this year because I was just like, I gotta do this. But was I confident in the beginning? No. Was I scared? Yes. Did I have mistakes? Oh my God, yes I did. But you know what? Through that, build so much confidence. Now I feel no more heart palpitations. Now I can put deodorant on once a day because I'm not sweating anymore because I'm not nervous.
But what I just said about that confidence is when you're not able to park, I'm sure you tell yourself, I could do this.
Right.
I could do this.
Yes.
It's that your inner voice is now talking and saying, I could do this.
It
So
really
what if he's
matters.
honking at me? So what if he thinks I'm weird?
This is true.
It's okay. Go by. Have a nice day. And you already are strong enough to believe in yourself that you will take a few tries, but at the end of the day, you're going to park that car.
Yes.
Because you have no other way. You can't leave it in the middle of the street. So even if it means going out of your car and saying, excuse me, sir, can you help me park my car?
I never did that, okay?
I had to do that a few times when I started driving. So whatever it takes to achieve your goal, and that is park my car, you're going to achieve the goal and park your car.
Today, actually, I had to reverse park my car, and I usually have such disgusting feeling of oh my God, there's a car coming and he's gonna have to wait and watch me now. You know that feeling of dread? I was like, I'm not gonna look at him. I'm just a driver in a car, and he knows this is what drivers do when they park.
Exactly.
They wait. Okay, and I got in, and I was like, celebrate those moments, by the way. When you have a win, do not underestimate the power of a win in your life. A little win. You didn't hurt someone. That's a win, okay? You stopped correctly. That's a win. Value those wins and build on them.
And you celebrate it because you posted on Facebook.
Right, no, I live out loud.
Okay, so that's your way of celebrating it.
No,
I'm going to celebrate it by calling 10 people I know and saying, you know what I just did?
Yeah.
So celebrate your accomplishment. That's very important.
10 people is not enough for
That's
me.
going to give you the
everyone.
motive to keep going. And finally, the last thing is awareness. Be aware that the best things in life are the most difficult to achieve. That's something that you have to be aware of. So you knew how important it was for you to drive. It was important to get you from place A1 and 2.
Yeah.
But you also knew in order for you to get to where you have to be and drive, you have to take lessons.
Right.
You have to practice. You have to take the exam. And you may fail it a couple of times. And that's okay because you have a retry and you could take it again.
Right.
So the same thing with me. In order for me to achieve my goal, which was to finish college, I had to wait 6, 7, 8, whatever amount of years it's going to take me, and be aware that good things take time. And when you're aware of that, you're not going to have expectations that things have to happen right away. So I think these 6 things...
people give up quickly because they just want it to happen already. I think that's a very valuable lesson in marriage.
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of divorces, unfortunately, or breakups of what is really decent people, right? How many of us have heard a conversation they got divorced and you're like, what? How?
And you don't expect it.
Yeah, they're such good people, both of them. They're so nice and put together.
And everything looked perfect.
What happened? But the truth is, I think a piece of it was they didn't see it till the end. They kind of let it go because they lost the vision of that. Of what that would look like for them.
What the motive was for them to get together in the first place. They lost that motivation to be together.
And that's something that they have to... You can't get a rabbi to give that to you or a marriage counselor to put that in you. I mean, marriage counselors are helpful and necessary, but what you really need is just... It has to be a development within yourself. So
the most important thing to walk away from, which I think... We used examples of our own challenges and what we learned from them. But I think the most important thing is everybody has their own challenge. How do I get through this difficult marriage situation? How do I get through having a child who might be Down syndrome? It's such a challenge that I have to face. How do I get through being fired from my recent job? How do I get through my daughter who is not able to find her partner? So there are so many different challenges, and these rules in some other shape, way, or form can be implemented. So it's not just necessarily of our goal in finishing school or driving a car. Any challenge that you're faced with, remember one thing. Every single person walking in this world is faced with a challenge. You're not alone. Don't feel embarrassed. If you do something and it doesn't work out perfectly the first time, that's okay. A baby doesn't learn to walk right away. When the baby starts to walk, what does it do first? It falls a couple of times. And when it falls, we celebrate and we say, yay, let's try that again. We don't let the baby stop walking now because he fell a few times.
True.
So falling is a part of learning.
Right.
So even if you fall a couple of times,
Right.
that too is that stumbling block in which you're going to build your own road.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to give you a quote that you should remember, and put that quote anywhere where you think it's going to be useful, whether that's in your car, when you get into your car just to look at it, or on your phone, wherever you think. Eventually it's going to be something that's going to be engraved in your mind, and then you won't need to write it anywhere. And the quote goes as follows: everything will be okay at the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. And if you remember those words, that right now I'm having such a hard time, I'm really dealing with such a stressful situation. And the reason I say that is because working in the medical field, you really get accustomed to so many different types of people. Yeah, it may seem to us that we only see sick people, and that's as a practitioner, that's all I do is treat patients for their health conditions. But that's not necessarily true. I had a patient that came to me, a 60-year-old male, and he looked so good, put together, shaven, really like a very, very good-looking guy. And then he starts breaking out to me and crying when I asked him, how are you feeling today? And when he started to cry in front of me, I felt very uncomfortable that I even asked him that question. I didn't realize it was such a sensitive question to ask. And when I said, sir, why are you crying? What happened? He said, I'm a little nervous right now because I have $25 left in my pocket, and it takes me 3,000 miles a week to get to work every day, which is $20 just in gas alone. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to keep this job, because will I have enough money to keep buying gas just to get to work? Forget about keeping my job for other reasons. And when I heard him say that, I felt so bad for him, because here I am buying clothing for myself and going out to restaurants and doing things which make me happy, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Or complaining.
And I have a person who doesn't even have enough money to get to work, because he's not sure if the money he has is enough to fill up his gas tank just to get to the 3,000-mile drive on a weekly basis. And I came out of the room. I didn't want him to see how I felt. I ran to the secretaries because I needed some support myself, because I felt so bad for this guy. I started to cry, and I said, we take so much for granted. We're complaining over the little petty things in life of how our child didn't listen to us and how we missed the alarm clock. Now, instead of saying, oh my God, I'm going to be late to work and I'm going to get in trouble, I start telling myself, at least I'm going to get to work. So if I get in trouble, I'll have the ability to tell my boss there was traffic. My child got caught up before he got up on the bus, so I had to deal with an emergency. I'll be able to tell my story. There are people that can't say their story because they never made it to work that day. They don't have a job to go to. They don't have a spouse to come home to. So sometimes you may be having, and I'm going off on a rant now, it's kind of off topic, but that happens. Sometimes,
right, guys? Let's give her some love.
We may be upset at our spouse, right? We think how terrible he is or she is. But at the end of the day, realize, is it better to have him in your life or not have him in your life? As bad as your situation may be, the question is, am I going to be happier with him or without him? And most people, of course, we're not talking about the small percentage of abusive relationships and many other people, so I don't want you to attack me.
If that's happening,
okay?
Please.
I'm talking about the majority, because a majority of our fights are really over simple matters. He didn't take out the garbage, so now I'll be pissed off at him. I told him to put 3 eggs, but he only put 2 eggs. I mean, those small little fights can become really, really big. We're talking about those type of situations. Okay,
so
the question is, why am I letting that get to me? At the end of the day, is that more important than losing this person?
Right.
So appreciate every situation.
It's true.
Don't take anything for granted. And I hope this was very, very helpful, because it helps me. It helps me.
How wonderful is she? Can we give her some love, like whatever, do that thing?
It helps me a lot talking, because I'm actually hearing my own voice, and it's something I'm telling myself. So
Yeah.
Ladies, let's be strong. We all have our challenges, and we will all overcome these challenges just with a matter of time. Be patient, and we'll all get there.
Thank you, Yocheved. That was beautiful. So I'm gonna invite you again because you passed the test. Next time I'll offer you more than water.
You're funny.
Guys,
any questions? Anybody have any questions for us? This is so exciting that I'm like trying to see if I can read anybody's questions or comments.
Let's see. Questions.
A few seconds for that. Anybody have any questions?
Let's look through what people wrote here. Hey, Yael, I'm curious. 1 second. Paulina, 1 second. Somebody did ask a question. Yes, it comes down to attitude or gratitude on a daily basis. Yes, Angela, you're next to come to my place.
That's pretty popular.
That's serious. Oh, look, Dr. Pan is watching. Awesome. Hey, Alex. I see a bunch of people. Okay, so I don't know if there were any questions. Hold on. Let me just
questions,
take a
comments.
Look. Oh, wait, what? I just twisted the screen.
We're back.
You just had my vision board, which is empty. I'm trying to figure it out. Hold on. All right, so we're going to head out. If this message had some meaning for you, that means it was meant for you, and I'm happy that you heard it. Thank you. Yael is also coming. Yes, thank you, Yael. Everybody's welcome. Have a good night. Thank you so much for joining. This was really special.
Oh, where are we? Okay. We're actually in Esther's residence. We're in Esther's house. Esther invited me over for this Facebook Live, so
it was
I
really
came
special.
and I got to see Esther's residence.
She's like, beautiful. It's my first time. I can't believe it was her first time coming over. Okay, next time we'll do it by you.
Oh, yes, definitely. Absolutely.
Have a great night. Thank you for all your beautiful love and comments. This is so nice, and it really means a lot to both of us.
And it's definitely, I mean, I've had a video which was on Facebook before, which Esther was so nice to share, but this is the first time that I'm actually doing this one-on-one, so it's really, really exciting. Thank you all for watching and for supporting Esther.
And for supporting you, Leah.
I wish you a lot of success in everything you do, and you inspire me in so many different ways, and I love watching you. And thank you for taking so much of your personal time, because I know this is time consuming. Thank you for taking so much of your personal time to help everybody grow and to help everybody
I help myself
be a better person.
It's really selfish.
So thank you so much for all that, because I mean, this is not easy to keep up with, and you are so devoted to what you do. It's an amazing thing.
I'm not gonna give up until I hit the grave, guys. That's it. Somebody asked if we're on the East Coast or West Coast. We're from New York, in Queens. So come over.
And the topic, somebody asked, what was the topic? The topic actually was 6 ways to achieving your goal, whatever the goal may be.
Reaching your potential. All right, guys. Thank you again for watching. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.